Imagine you are a Japanese soldier on a remote island in the Pacific in 1945. You are cut off from your supply lines. You haven't eaten a proper meal in weeks. You are surviving on roots, lizards, and a handful of worm-infested rice. You look out at the ocean, expecting to see American battleships raining fire on you. Instead, you see a strange, ugly, concrete barge floating near the American fleet. It doesn't have big guns. It doesn't launch planes. But inside that ship, the Americans are doing something that, to you, seems impossible. They are making chocolate ice cream. Gallons of it. While the Axis powers were struggling to manufacture bullets, the United States Navy decided to spend $1 million in 1945, moneyed it, build a floating ice cream factory. Why? Because the Secretary of the Navy declared that ice cream was as important as ammunition. Hi, I'm Ray. My grandfather served in the Navy, and he told me that the war wasn't just one with atomic bombs. It was one with sugar, milk powder, and refrigeration. Today on G.I.Stories, we are boarding the strangest vessel in naval history. Get your spoons ready. This is the story of the ice cream barge, the ship that proved the war was over before it even ended. Chapter 1. The addiction to understand why the military would build a boat for frozen deserts. You have to understand America in the 1940s. The United States was addicted to ice cream. Part of this was due to Prohibition. When alcohol was banned in the 1920s, breweries turned into ice cream factories to survive, and bars turned into soda fountains. By the time World War II started, ice cream wasn't just a treat. It was a symbol of the American way of life. It was comfort food in its purest form. When the war broke out, the Army and Navy tried to cut luxuries to save shipping space for bullets and bandages. They briefly tried to remove ice cream from the menu. The backlash was instant. Morale plummeted. Soldiers complained. Parents wrote angry letters to Washington. The military quickly realized a psychological truth. You can ask an 18-year-old kid to die for his country, but you cannot ask him to give up his milkshake. The turning point came from the top. James Forrestal, the Secretary of the Navy, famously said, "Ice cream, in my opinion, is the single most neglected morale factor." He made it a priority. Ice cream was no longer a luxury. It was a tactical necessity. It cooled the men down in the tropics, gave them calories, and most importantly, it reminded them of home. But there was a problem. The Pacific Ocean is big and hot. Large battleships and aircraft carriers had freezers and ice cream machines. The USS Lexington, for example, was famous for its Geedunk stand. But what about the thousands of sailors on small destroyers, PT boats, and submarines? They had no freezers. They were drinking warm water and eating Spam. The Navy couldn't fit an ice cream machine on every small boat, so they decided to do something typically American. If the boats can't make ice cream, we will bring a giant, floating factory to them. Chapter 2. The concrete beast. Enter the BRL barge, refrigerated, large. By 1944, steel was precious. It was needed for tanks and carriers. So, the Army and Navy turned to an ancient material, concrete. Yes, they built ships out of cement. The Navy commissioned a specific vessel for the Western Pacific area. It cost around $1 million to outfit. It was basically a floating warehouse, 265 feet long. It had no engines of its own. It had to be towed by tugboats across the ocean. But inside this gray, ugly block of concrete was a paradise. The main deck was dominated by a massive ice cream manufacturing plant. It was equipped with huge chrome mixers, flash freezers, and storage lockers kept at sub-zero temperatures. The stats were insane. This barge could produce 10 gallons of ice cream every 7 minutes. Running at full capacity, each churned out 500 gallons per shift. That's enough to serve a scoop to every sailor in a task force every single day. It also carried tons of meat and vegetables in refrigerated holds. But let's be honest, nobody cared about the broccoli. They cared about the vanilla victory. I have a question for you. If you were stuck on a submarine for 60 days, smelling like diesel and sweat, what flavor would you kill for? Chocolate? Strawberry? Or maybe just plain vanilla? Let me know in the comments below. Also, did you know that US bomber pilots used to make homemade ice cream by putting milk and cocoa in a can and flying too high altitude to freeze it? It's true. If you like these crazy facts, smash the like button, and subscribe to G.I. Stories. Okay, back to the concrete ship, Chapter 3. The logistics of luxury building the ship was one thing. Supplying it was another. You can't bring fresh cows to the middle of the Pacific. So, the entire operation ran on powdered milk and dehydrated mix. The recipe was scientific. Water, dehydrated milk fat, sugar, and flavoring. The barge carried massive silos of this powder. They would mix it with filtered seawater, freeze it, and pack it into 5-gallon cardboard tubs. The distribution system was like a drive-through. Smaller ships destroyers, minesweepers, and PT boats would pull up alongside the concrete barge. A crane or a pulley system would lower crates of ice cream tubs down to the smaller boats. Veterans described this moment with religious reverence. One sailor wrote in his diary, "The most beautiful sight in the world was unto sunset. It was the ice cream barge appearing on the horizon." Now, think about the psychological impact on the enemy. Japanese intelligence knew about these ships. Imagine being a Japanese admiral. You are losing ships because you don't have enough oil. Your pilots are flying suicide missions, and you find out that the Americans have so much fuel and resources that they are towing a floating Dairy Queen across the ocean. It was the ultimate flex. It signaled that the U.S. industrial machine was unstoppable. Chapter 4. The ice cream ransom ice cream became a currency. In the Pacific, paper money was useless. But ice cream could buy anything. This created a bizarre black market. The bigger ships had their own ice cream machines. The smaller ships did not. But the destroyers had a very important job. They rescued the pilots who crashed into the ocean. So, an unwritten rule developed in the U.S. Navy. If a fighter pilot crashed and was picked up by a destroyer, the destroyer captain would hold the pilot hostage. The destroyer would radio the carrier, "We have your pilot, Lieutenant Smith. He is safe. If you want him back, it will cost you." The price, 20 gallons of ice cream. Famous ace pilot Tom Blackburn confirmed this. The standard ransom for a pilot was 20 gallons of ice cream transferred from the carrier to the destroyer. If the pilot was a squadron leader or an ace, the price went up to 25 gallons. The pilots didn't mind. In fact, they were happy to be worth their weight in vanilla. It strengthened the bond between the flyboys and the sailors who watched their backs. Chapter 5, the Geedunk Wars on the big ships. The ice cream parlor, the Geedunk, was the center of social life. But it was also a place of tension. The lines were long. There is a famous story about the USS New Jersey. Admiral William Bull Halsey, one of the toughest men in the Navy, loved ice cream. During a battle, rumors spread that the supply of chocolate syrup was running low. Halsey reportedly ordered a destroyer to detach from the fleet and make a high-sped run to supply ship just to get more chocolate syrup. Priorities. Right. Even the Marine Corps, the toughest branch of them all, had a weakness for it. When Marines stormed the beaches of islands like Peleliu or Iwo Jima, they were often promised ice cream as a reward if they secured the airfield. There are photos of tough, dirt-covered Marines, moments after a firefight, sitting on ammo crates eating melting ice cream from their helmets. Conclusion: when the war ended in 1945, the ice cream barge had served its purpose. Most of these concrete ships were abandoned. Some were sunk to create break. Others were left to rot in distant lagoons. They weren't pretty enough to be preserved in museums. But the legacy of the ice cream ship is huge. It proved that morale is a weapon. By treating their soldiers like human beings, by giving them a taste of home in the middle of hell, the U.S. military kept their fighting spirit alive. The Japanese fought for the emperor. The Germans fought for the fatherland. The Americans, they fought for apple pie, and a scoop of cold chocolate ice cream, and maybe that made all the difference. What about you? If you could build a dedicated ship for one type of food to follow you around, what would it be? A pizza ship? A burger barge? Tell me in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to G.I. Stories. Next week, we are looking at the soldier who captured a German squad, using only a longbow. You don't want to miss that. This is Ray. Stay frosty.